National experts are in full disrespecting mode, and we will tell you why right after this. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. That's all because of you. Thank you very much for that. On today's show, we'll break down what you need to be watching for in this Sugar Bowl against the Georgia Bulldogs and what could ultimately decide this game. It's kind of interesting to think about. We'll talk about the key matchups, the pressure points, and the moments that could swing momentum towards the Rebels on Thursday night. But first, we're going to start with the national conversation about this game. Analysts like J.D. Pickell and Paul Feinbaum, they've all lined up behind Georgia, and in this matchup, seemingly brush aside what Ole Miss brings to the table as well. So the question becomes, why is their confidence level so high? And are they underestimating this Ole Miss team? All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. You can use that using that promo code to get tickets to the Sugar Bowl, which is the hardest ticket to get right now. So national media members are kind of all over the Georgia Bulldogs in this game, and they think it's just a foregone conclusion that Ole Miss is going to lose the game to the Georgia Bulldogs. But the problem is I don't think they are, factually going down the right road on this. It's one of those things that's weird. If you look at the actual line of the game as of late last week, Georgia's favored by 6.5 points, less than a touchdown. Fairly even game. When you look at win probabilities on FPI and other, it's Georgia having between a 55 and 60% chance to win. And just for everybody knowledge on this thing is that saying if they played 5 times, Georgia would be 3-2. This is a toss-up type game that could go literally any direction. I talked with Corey Burton today, who does a lot of the breakdowns for the all access side of the house in the Everydayer Club for us. And he said this game's a toss-up. It's absolutely something that you just can't tell who is going to win. So why is J.D. Pickell? Why is Paul Feinbaum? Why are all these other analysts chiming in and just talking about this game like it's a foregone conclusion? I think it's simple. They saw what Georgia did offensively. If you just look at the box score of what's going on, because there is no memory of the way the game played out, Georgia's offense had their way with the Ole Miss defense. But the problem is that they're not taking into account is Ole Miss has changed their defense. They have gone to a different type system, and it has been far more effective on their way to winning games. Ole Miss has scored over 30 points in 7 straight games. And in the fourth quarter, when Ole Miss struggled offensively, it wasn't because of anything that Georgia did. Georgia did what Georgia did the previous 3 quarters. It is because Ole Miss didn't hit wide open wide receivers. Go back and watch what happened. Daquan Wright was 10 yards wide open going down the field. He was probably going to gain 45 yards, and the ball was spiked into the ground. Ole Miss lost that game not because of Georgia. Georgia played well. Georgia's a good team. 90,000 fans in Sanford Stadium will never not be intimidating. But Ole Miss lost that game because of Ole Miss. It wasn't anything that Georgia did special that caused Ole Miss to lose this game. It wasn't like the 2012 Alabama teams that played boa constrictor on you and there's just nothing you could do. It wasn't that type of a performance. It was Ole Miss blinking and Georgia not blinking. And in the fourth quarter, because of those 3 and outs, where the Ole Miss quarterback struggled, Georgia had the ball for 13 minutes of the fourth quarter. Ole Miss went 3 and out twice, essentially. And that caused everything, missed passes. The accuracy just wasn't there. Ole Miss blinked. It wasn't anything that Georgia did, other than the fact that the crowd level got juiced after that 4th and 2 missed tackle. And then the quarterback that was the quarterback of Fair State in his first road start actually got affected. If you want to count that, yeah, sure, absolutely. But the national pundits that are talking about this game, they look at it as the 2019 Georgia team showed up, or the 2021, whichever was that dominant unit with Jordan Davis and those guys showed up and just completely shut down Ole Miss, and that didn't happen. And if you think it happened, you're wrong. You need to go back and watch the game. Georgia did exactly what they've done the rest of the game. Period. Ole Miss lost that game. Georgia didn't win that game. That's the point. Right off the bat. But the national experts are willing to see Georgia through the lens of, oh, okay, they finally woke up and got the stop necessary and won the game. So obviously we're going to push through. And then they look and they say, well, Georgia hasn't given up more than 10 points in each of the last 4 games. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty great stat. I did not realize that. Holy cow. And then you look at it, it's like, okay, they gave up 10 points to Texas, who got absolutely shut down by Kentucky early in the year. Florida beat them. Offensively, that probably isn't the team to hang your hat on. Then they played Charlotte and gave up 3 points. Charlotte went 1-12 and got dog walked by Tulane by 50 points or something like that. Then they gave up 9 points to Georgia Tech. That's fine, I guess. I mean, that's a good thing. Georgia Tech's offense has the ability to be explosive, but Georgia Tech offensively is going to struggle with the Georgia defense. It was just going to happen because all of their game breakers after last year's team transferred out. And then is the Alabama game, and this is where most of the credit comes from towards Georgia. A game where Ty Simpson was injured, when they didn't have Jam Miller. They were missing offensive linemen. They weren't quite right, and they already can't run the football. If you can't run the football, you can't beat Georgia. And the whole game in the SEC championship looked like the second half in Sanford Stadium. So when you look at it, it's like, okay, Georgia hasn't given up more than 10 points in a game in a month. That's true. That's a factual statement. And then you look down to see exactly who they played, and it's like, okay, before that, they played at Florida. It was 24-20. Before that was Mississippi State in Mississippi State. They gave up 21 points. You know, it's not as cut and dry as you think it would be, and this isn't the invincible team that those 2011, 2012 Alabama teams were. Turning that over and making a data point and just stretching it out to this game is folly. This Ole Miss team has a completely different defense. The offense has completely transformed to a Trinidad Chambliss-led team. The Georgia game, I think it was game 3 or 4 or something like that. You're going to see a full version. And the Kejuan Lacey that played against the Georgia Bulldogs was not the Kejuan Lacey that is here now. This is a different running back now than then. So we'll see exactly what it looks out. It is much closer to a toss-up in this game than it is anyway a foregone conclusion. At this point, I don't think anybody that would be the favorite, I would count on them to cover the game, because when you look at college football nerds and other advanced stats group, it's like a 3-point line as opposed to the 6.5. That's what the line tells, which means it tells me the logo on the side of the helmet is plus 3.5 for the Georgia Bulldogs in this game. Ole Miss has a real chance to not just cover, but win this game. They are the looser team. They have all of the intangibles in play, and if they can resurrect themselves after they went to Athens against this Georgia team, it could be interesting. Important thing for Ole Miss is to get a stop on that first drive. Just right off the bat, get a stop on that first drive, and then it's game on. So we'll see. I talked with Coach Corey Burton, who used to work on Coach Mark Richt's staff at Georgia. He has ties with the Georgia Bulldogs very, very closely. And he said that it's going to be important for Ole Miss to play well in the first quarter and potentially have a lead. That is something that you'll probably need to pay attention to as well. But this game is an excellent game for Ole Miss, and we'll see exactly how it goes for them. So we'll see. Just like last game, this might be the simplest matchup on Ole Miss's schedule. We're going to go over keys. This is going to be all about stopping the run. We will talk about that next. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but it absolutely is necessary. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in one mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science is amazing. It is set for both mental and physical readiness. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and in control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege, and you can get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That is all because of you. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members only, Discord actions, and more, all for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemiss.com or lockedonolemiss.supercast.com or check out the link down below in the show notes to learn more. Really interesting stuff. All right. So this game is the simplest game that Ole Miss is going to play all season. Georgia, for as talented as they are and as many different ways that they have to beat you, it really is a simple game. And Pete Golding talked about it in his Sugar Bowl press conference. It all stems from stopping the running game. If you can do that, it's going to help you get them in 3rd and longs and help you get off the field. If you don't, they're just going to make it go 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 1st and 10, and they will slowly drive the ball down the field to the point where you've got to make decisions and plays and move up, and then they will get you in the pass game. Exactly same game plan as what the Arkansas Razorbacks did to Ole Miss early in the season. 2 games where it just completely got out of control, and both games started with the run game. So when you look at the keys for this game, you stop the run versus Georgia, that is the way you stop that offense. You do not allow them to get it going. Once you get into 3rd and 7 plus, which is the goal, get off the field. If you live in 3rd and 4 all day, Gunnar Stockton is going to make you pay, at least with his legs. He does a good job of throwing screens and throwing quick outs and stuff like that, and his legs can be a weapon. You need to get into 3rd and long. Ole Miss does pretty well when it comes to 3rd and long. Second of all, you need to win the turnover battle against Georgia, and you need to keep momentum on Ole Miss's side. Now, with Pete Golding, I don't think you have to have this conversation necessarily, but don't go for it on anything on your side of the field. 4th and 1 against Georgia is a trap. It has always been a trap. They want you to go for it on 4th down so they can get a short field and capitalize on it. Play the field position game and do what you can to keep momentum on your side. And finally, Trinidad Chambliss needs to prove that he is the best quarterback in the SEC. That is going to be necessary in this game. He needs to put together a four-quarter performance that is basically unmatched, that puts Georgia in a blender, that has to occupy those linebackers as a spy, because we're going to talk about it in the next segment. The best player on the field is Daquan Wright. Ole Miss has the best player on the field. If they're having to use those linebackers as a spy, that is going to make Daquan more effective. So it is going to be on Trinidad Chambliss to not have that fourth quarter swoon that he had in Athens, and the rest of the game needs to look like the rest of the game. If that happens, they're going to be just fine. I think the magic number in this game, hold Georgia to 150 or less yards, you're likely going to win the football game. Trinidad Chambliss not turning the ball over, you're going to be all right. This is a situation that can benefit Ole Miss through Trinidad Chambliss. Now, one thing that we're going to talk about in the next segment, and when we start talking about Daquan Wright, is what he does for the other wide receivers on the field, what he does for Kewan Lacey, how he helps the offensive line as well. Daquan Wright is a true weapon of this offense, and when he's going, the offense is going. It's so easy for Deuce Alexanders and Trey Wallace and Deshaun Stribling to kind of go to the next level when everybody's worried about Daquan Wright over the middle of the field. And then the pass catching ability of a Kewan Lacey and the running backs as a whole, that is weapons grade as well. This is going to be a terrific matchup, an absolutely terrific matchup, to where if they can do it, if everything goes right, you're going to have a situation to where Ole Miss can roll like they did against Georgia last time, but maybe this time, since it's not in Sanford Stadium, since you will have the advantage crowd-wise in the stands, that's not going to get juiced up. The momentum isn't going to run like it ran before. You just have to get off to a good start, no turnovers, play as clean as possible, and if that happens, you will be all right. Ole Miss against Tulane, one penalty for 5 yards over the course of that game, and that penalty was intentionally taken to gain extra yardage for a punt. So Ole Miss played a clean game last week against Tulane. The Austin Simmons fumble at about the 7-yard line was the only thing that went truly wrong in that game. So that is pretty cool indeed. Anyway, in our final segment, Daquan Wright might be the best player on the field. That matchup is going to be absolutely massive for Ole Miss. We'll tell you what to watch for and why it matters right after this. You know, Fridays feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Friday night before the game tip-off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited-time window where special offers can drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new, boost, bonuses, surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off, and you make the move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during the NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, so what do we need to be watching for in this game? It's going to be a momentous occasion. I'm looking forward to see the atmosphere. Everybody that I have been talking to is going down to New Orleans. It's going to be a ton of powder blue in the Superdome for this game. But what do you need to watch for? We're giving you keys of what needs to happen. Here's certain things that you need to look for as well. Daquan Wright is the best player on either team in the Sugar Bowl. He is a matchup problem for the linebackers. And whenever this offense is going well, it is torturing linebackers. Now, if they're worried about having to spy on Trinidad Chambliss, that is going to allow Daquan Wright to work. Whenever everybody's paying attention to the middle of the field, that means outside Deshaun Stribling, Trey Wallace, Deuce Alexander, they can make plays as well. This is a wide receiver unit that really makes a secondary work. I imagine Georgia is going to get up in Ole Miss's grill and try and press a little bit. That could be a cause of some explosive plays happening. But whenever there's not two safeties back deep, that is going to be problematic with the outside wide receivers. Whenever you do have two safeties back deep, that's going to be problematic for Caden Lee and Daquan Wright and covering those guys. And plus, you need to be able to run the ball just a little bit. Daquan Wright is a huge piece of the offense. And in the fourth quarter, like I said in the first segment, it isn't anything that Georgia did that caused Ole Miss to wilt in the fourth quarter. For whatever reason, crowd getting juiced up, whatever happened, Trinidad Chambliss did not have a good fourth quarter. It was unforced errors. It wasn't anything that happened with players getting in his face. They were getting energized because the crowd was juiced, but players were running as open as they were before. That's the reality of that game. Second of all, tackle well in space against Zach Branch. That's going to be absolutely massive. Do not allow explosives. It's okay if he catches a bubble screen for 6 yards. If he does that 2 or 3 times, that's fine. You just don't want him to catch the bubble screen or the hitch or the quick hitter that goes out the gate and turns into a 70-yard touchdown, especially on a fast track in the Superdome. That is what you want to avoid. Ole Miss needs to tackle extremely well, especially on the outside and in space. Against Georgia the first time, Ole Miss had double-digit missed tackles. And that is the difference between winning and losing. I don't care if it's less than a touchdown line. You have a chance to kind of make stuff up by playing well. If you can do that, you have a good chance to win this game. And lastly, script chaos against Georgia. Take advantage of their over-preparedness. So what I mean by that is the first 15 plays of the game are scripted. And Ole Miss has been very good with the script. So for every play that's in Ole Miss's wheelhouse to figure out exactly what Georgia is going to do on that, you need to throw in a play that's just an absolute tendency breaker to make them think a little bit, because the reality of this situation is Georgia is one of the most over-prepared football teams in the entire country. If you do something, they've seen it 13 times. They've practiced it. Nothing is going to surprise them. So you need to throw in a tendency breaker in the script to make them wonder what else is there. It takes up their surety if there's something new. Now, I'm not talking about a double reverse pass that could backfire spectacularly. What I'm talking about is Ole Miss hasn't run outside zone very much. Ole Miss needs to probably break that out. Ole Miss hasn't run a screen pass very much. A screen pass could be out the door against this Georgia team. It is going to be on Ole Miss to script chaos. You want them to be less locked in on what you do well by making them worry about something that they haven't seen. It's basic art of war stuff. It's deception. It's making your opponents think that this is more difficult than it actually is. And whenever it comes down to a 3rd and 4, you're going to be doing what you do well. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you do an inside zone, when you hit the pass to Daquan Wright over the middle, you want the linebackers to step slow because they're worried about something that they saw 2 series ago that you showed them from the same exact formation. I don't think you need to risk it with reverses and things like that, to where he could be tackled in the backfield for 8-9 yards. And all of a sudden you're behind the chains and everything's, you can't do that against Georgia, but you can call a screen pass, but you can run outside zone once or twice when you don't normally do it. You can run the tunnel screen as opposed to the hitch. You can do things slightly different just to show the other team, while the stuff that you normally do and are very effective with, you still do those as well. I think if Ole Miss can handle that, they will be all right. And if they don't turn the ball over, they run the ball fairly quickly and can slow down Georgia's running game to the tune of about 150 yards for the game, Ole Miss is going to win the game, despite what all of the next national experts say. I mean, it's on the verge of disrespect right now whenever you listen to some of the takes of national people. And that's fine. Disrespect is good at times because it could end up on bulletin boards for the Ole Miss Rebels, but it still is silly whenever people are just looking at box scores and making takes instead of actually remembering how that game went. Ole Miss struggled in the fourth quarter not because of Georgia. Ole Miss struggled in the fourth quarter because their quarterback spiked a couple of passes in the dirt. All of a sudden, he had trouble throwing the football. He got rattled in front of a high-intensity crowd. That's not going to happen in the Sugar Bowl. So we'll see exactly how it goes. Thanks for tuning in today on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk Ole Miss versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl all week. So make sure you subscribe and follow the show, and you'll get all the latest episodes. We're on all the social channels as well, so check that out. Also, did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On account on any social platform, and they will drop you the code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you check out a second listen. May I suggest Locked On SEC or Locked On College Football. Hotty toddy, everybody. The biggest college football game in Mississippi history, or Ole Miss history, just a couple of days away. And that's pretty cool. Hotty toddy, everybody.